What's up guys, Justin here with TheSketchUpEssentials.com. So in this video I'm going to talk about the Black Friday sales that I'm seeing for things related to SketchUp. And so obviously this is going to have to do with paid features and things like that. So if that's not something you're interested in, we'll be back to our regularly scheduled stuff next week. But in the meantime, I wanted to give you kind of an idea of what's out there, what's on sale. If you're just interested in what's out there, I'll try to put a list of the different things in the time so that you can jump to those in this video as well. So if you just want to learn about a specific extension or something like that, I will put those timestamps in the notes down below as well. So let's go ahead and just jump into it. So all of these links to these different extensions can be found on my Black Friday sales page at TheSketchUpEssentials.com/Black Friday. So if you're looking for information about any of these, make sure to check that out. The link will also be in the notes down below. So to start off, my two courses, the SketchUp Essentials course and the SketchUp Essentials for Architecture, are both open. Registration on those is going to be open through Monday night at 11:59 p.m. This is going to be the last time I open registration into these two courses for the year. So the SketchUp Essentials course is a much more detailed overview of SketchUp in general, so teaching you all of the different tools and things like that, while the SketchUp Essentials for Architecture is something where we really dive deep into specifically modeling for layout and creating construction plans and things like that. So if you want an overall view of SketchUp and you really want to become kind of a SketchUp expert, the SketchUp Essentials course is going to be a good fit. We kind of abbreviate some of those things in the SketchUp Essentials for Architecture, and we specifically focus on modeling for and creating plans. So depending on what your focus is, those two courses are going to be open through Monday night. That's going to be the last time those courses are open through the end of the year. So Placemaker is currently 40% off. And by the way, I'll be updating all of these on my Black Friday page, which I will link to in the notes down below. So as long as something is up there, to my knowledge, the discount is still live. I will try to remove things from that page, or if I find new things, I'll add them to that page as we go. So Placemaker is 40% off. So Placemaker is the smart city creation extension where you can actually find a location. So let's say, for example, that we were to go to like Denver or something like that. So within Placemaker, what you can do is you can create a whole city with a single click. So let's say, for example, that we looked up Denver, Colorado, and I was to select this area. So you can adjust this using the different points on the corners here, but if we import an area, that's going to import your map data. And so when your map data comes in, then you can then take this area and select it, and you can actually click on the button right here for Make Place. And so what that's going to do is that's going to import everything. That's going to import buildings, that's going to import roads, that's going to import different green areas and things like that, and that's actually going to generate them as geometry inside of your SketchUp model. So you can literally create an entire city with a single click in here. So if you do any kind of like context modeling or anything like that, this can be a huge time saver. And it does take a bit to bring this information in, especially if you're on a terrible internet connection like I am. All right, and so you can see if we take a look at this and we zoom in that this has actually brought in all of the different paths and sidewalks, as well as trees in the green areas. It's generated roads in an actual location where roads show up in real life, and it's also created all of these buildings. So all of these buildings have been brought in as well. So let's say, for example, and you can edit these, by the way. So if you were to come in here and let's say you wanted to build something in this location, you could select all of the buildings right here, and you could hide them, and then you could actually come in here and model your own building. So if you're looking for geographical context or something like that, this is way faster than doing all of this manually. So Placemaker does all of this just with the single click of a button, or you can bring those things in individually. You can also use this to bring in high resolution images of an area. So that extension is currently 40% off. So Profile Builder And Quantifier Pro, if you buy them in the BIM bundle, is 50% off. So Profile Builder is the smart profile building extension that allows you to generate different profiles or different objects that automatically infill things inside of your model. So for example, I've got a library of different objects in here that I can add in here. So let's say I wanted to create a railing along this path. All I would have to do is just add this railing in here. By selecting the path. So it's almost like the follow me tool, but that can place objects as well. So I'm going to turn my profiles off real quick, but you can see how not only can I do that along a generated path, I can also use this to generate these profiles that automatically fills in the pickets without having a path predefined. And so this is good for a lot of different things. So I really like the ladder example. The ladder lets you build a ladder that goes straight up and down like this, and you can see how it automatically adds different steps and other things like that into your ladder. So this can be a huge time saver for anything that repeats. And so you can also build your old assemblies. So like for example, I've built an assembly that builds a wall. It's an exterior wall, and it automatically fills in all of the framing, the sheathing, as well as the plywood on the back side of the wall. So the bundle also comes with Quantifier, and what Quantifier does is Quantifier actually creates a report of the different parts and pieces contained in here. So for example, if I select this wall, and I select everything in it, and then I run Quantifier, I can actually run a component report that'll give me all of the different 2x6s, all of the OSB boards. You can get all the face square footage, all the footage of the insulation. So you can actually set these things up so that you can pull quantities out of these models as well. And you can also associate costs with those things. So you could add costs for all of your different 2x6s and your OSB board in order to generate an actual cost estimate using Profile Builder. So by combining Profile Builder with Quantifier, you actually have a quantification tool that you can use inside of SketchUp. So these two tools, when bought together, are currently 50% off. So Scatter and Transmuter are both currently on sale. They're 30% off individually or 50% off total if you combine them together. So what Scatter is Scatter is an extension designed to help you scatter objects inside of your model. So for example, let's say you had a program, or let's say you wanted to create a bunch of hills or something like that with a bunch of bushes and rocks on them. What this extension does is this extension allows you to add objects from your library. So for example, like bushes, and it allows you to randomly scatter them or scatter them based on other criteria that you enter into your model. And so not only does it allow you to scatter them as full geometry, which as we know would really slow down SketchUp, you can also load these in as proxies for V-Ray, Thea, Maxwell, and Inkscape. And so what that means is this will load in a number of low polygon models. So let's say I was to click here. This will load in a bunch of low polygon proxy models in here that will only be loaded by your rendering program. Meaning you can scatter thousands of different objects in here without actually slowing down your SketchUp model's performance. So if I was to run this in Inkscape, for example, let's go ahead and click the play button. You can see how what this does is this places these on your surface. But you can see how they're placed in here randomly, and so those proxy models don't load inside of SketchUp, they only load inside of your actual rendering program. So you can see how the actual geometry of these bushes loads in here, and they look really realistic, but you don't necessarily have to worry about slowing down your performance by scattering all of these inside of SketchUp itself. And so not only can you do this with the library objects, you can also do this with really any object you want. So you can spread, or you can take objects from your material library and you can scatter them in here as well. So if I was to generate other proxies or something like that, you could scatter those in here as well. And so this works really well in combination with Transmuter. And so what Transmuter is, Transmuter is a program designed to help you import different model files from other model formats into SketchUp. And so not only does it allow you to import those different model files, so let's say for example I was to go into my component library and let's say I've got some pretty big files, like I've got some Megascans assets in here. So let's say I was to bring this model in, well, this is an OBJ file, meaning it's not something that naturally comes into SketchUp really well. Well, what Transmuter does is this allows you to set all of these different options in here so that this loads in really well. So you can see how what I can do is I can load the up axis on this model. And one of the things about importing other formats into SketchUp is they don't always handle materials and other things like that in the same way. So if you were to bring this in, this wouldn't actually have any materials mapped on it. What this extension allows you to do is this actually allows you to bring in all of your different maps. So in this case, for example, my color map would be my albedo. So this would be my map that's actually associated with this cliff. So you can see how you can load this into this model. You can also load your other model file, or you can also load your other maps for rendering. So like your normal maps or other things like that, or your displacement maps, you can load all of those and then you can bring this into a SketchUp format. And so let's say, for example, that this was a really big model file. So a lot of the files you bring in that have been created in like 3ds Max or something like that have a ton of different faces. They're much higher geometry. Well, there's a slider in here that allows you to simplify all of those meshes. So you can see how what I can do is I can use this slider in order to really simplify this object. So instead of bringing in a super high polygon object, what I can do instead is I can minimize this. The other thing I can do is I can also import this as a proxy. So for example, or export this as a proxy. So for example, if I was to export this as an Inkscape proxy, what it would do is this would create a low polygon proxy file that would actually be replaced when Inkscape renders it. So if I was to click the button for Transmute, and we'll go ahead and save this in this folder. So we'll go ahead and save it as this rock cliff for Inkscape. And this would work for plants or any other kind of file as well. But now if I was to bring that in, so if I do a file import, and I was to bring that in, you can see how that would come in as this really lightweight proxy file. So I've got this really lightweight proxy file in here that's not really going to slow down SketchUp. But then if I actually go into Inkscape and I load this, this is going to load in that model file that we use Transmuter in order to create. So you can see how you can use this in order to bring in really high quality models without having to worry about crashing your SketchUp with huge amounts of geometry and things like that. So again, Scatter is 30% off, or Transmuter is 30% off, or they're both 50% off if you purchase them together. So Curix extensions are 50% off if you enter the code Black Friday at checkout. And so I think that one's only good through tonight, but he's got a number of different extensions, like his extend tool, which is good for extending objects to different lines, or his stretch tool where you can stretch different things based on the center, things like that. So his extensions are all 50% off. So you can check those out at his website at gumroad.com/Curix. So PlusSpec is the smart building modeling extension for SketchUp. So this actually allows you to build different assemblies that have information associated with them. So you can actually come in here and generate things like slabs and walls, and easily add doors and other things like that inside of your walls really quickly. So and the cool thing about this extension is all of these things are smart. So let's say I was to create a wall in here. Maybe like a masonry veneer wall or something like that. You can see how you can set this wall. And then when you've set this wall, you can come back in and add things like doors and windows just by selecting the wall. So if I select this wall, you can see how I can actually set a point in here where I want my window to go, and I can set the width of that window, and this will add that in automatically. And so the cool thing about this is not only can you add these things in automatically and it'll automatically adjust your walls and other things like that, it's also going to allow you to adjust these. And so let's say I didn't like the kind of door that came in here, I can actually right click on it, and I can, under Windows and Doors, I can click on Edit Window and Door. And I can actually change the kind of door that I have in here. So instead of having to redraw this, I can just rerun this and click Submit, and it'll put a different kind of door in here. So, and all of these are dynamic, meaning if you right click on them, and actually meaning if you click on this button right here, your doors and your windows will actually open and adjust. So all of this is adjustable and changeable, and it's all in a smart model format. So there's also tools built in here to help you export these things to layout. So this is probably about as close to a true BIM extension as there is for SketchUp. So currently, PlusSpec is offering 30% off plus 2 months free, or 2 licenses for the price of 1. So I will link to both of those in the notes down below. So SKIMP is a model simplification and polygon reducing extension. So what it does is it takes a high polygon model and it'll reduce the number of faces in order to really simplify the size and complexities of models that you're importing into SketchUp. So if you need to export, or if you need to import external models and simplify them, like you don't necessarily need as many polygons in here as originally come in with this model, then you can use this tool in order to reduce the number of polygons so that the size of your object inside of SketchUp is much more manageable. So SKIMP is currently 30% off. So Flex Tools is a collection of dynamic components that'll automatically cut openings inside of walls and also allows you to easily make adjustments and changes. So these are all dynamic components that can be adjusted from a height and width standpoint, so you can actually use the scale tool to adjust these inside of a wall without having to go back in and redo different geometry and things like that. So I've wasted a lot of time in the past working with or modeling out different things like windows, so having a tool that can do that for you can be a huge time saver. So the other nice thing about that is if you go in here and you adjust these windows, you can adjust things like the number of divisions. So for example, I can take this window and I can adjust the number of divisions inside of the wall. So it has a number of different window tools built in, and you can also interact with these. So for example, you can open or close these windows and these doors if you want to. They also work really well with layout. And then there's also some tools in here for like stairs. So for example, the flex stairs can be set to basically you can either adjust the overall rise and run, or you can also adjust how tall each step would be so that you can easily create a stair that goes between 2 levels that'll fill these in automatically. And you can right click on those and adjust those different component options as well. So Flex Tools is currently 30% off of FlexPack Pro. And then finally, Vertex Tools and SubD are both on sale as well. So these are both extensions from TomTom, and Vertex Tools, for example, is a vertex editor, meaning you can select different vertices and edit geometry based on those vertices. So this is probably my favorite vertex editor. I like it better than working with sandbox tools because it just gives you better control over what you can do in general. So you can adjust this so that it has bigger fall off. So for example, if I was to select the vertices in here and I was to set the soft select radius to something like 100 feet, what that would do is that would adjust how far out these are adjusted. So this just gives you more tools for making changes and adjustments. So there's a lot of different ways that you can select different vertices in here as well. So there's circle tools, and there's the free select, which I use a lot. So if you want to select like all the vertices in this corner, you can select those and then you can adjust those all at once. So both Vertex Tools and then SubD. So SubD is basically a parametric subdivision extension. So what this one does is this one allows you to basically subdivide objects to make them smoother. So you can see if I go on their website and take a look at this, what this does is this takes geometry that's been built in here and then it smooths it out in order to make more organic looking faces. So both of these are on sale. I believe the code for these is Black Friday 2019. I will note that at the link in the notes down below. So that's where I'm going to end this video. I will be updating the Black Friday page at TheSketchUpEssentials.com/Black Friday with any new deals that come out between now and Monday. So make sure you check back, and I will also be removing the ones that expire. So as always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. I really appreciate it, and I will catch you in the next video. Thanks, guys.